make your way into water, blood is already being redistributed to your lungs. And this blood isn't arterial blood, it's low oxygen venous blood. When you make your way into water, the actual pressure, water pressure acting on your body is shifting. We call this the blood shift, shifting blood towards your lungs. Now, once that blood enters your lungs, it becomes pretty much instantly oxygenated. So we call it really supposedly the diving response, because there are many physiological reflexes that kick in. The condensed version of what the diving response is essentially conservation of energy. When seals or humans or various other animals dive, there needs to be some kind of conservation of oxygen. You're essentially diving on strictly limited oxygen stores. So any mechanism that can slow the burn rate of oxygen would have an obvious benefit. And so the physiological responses that allow you to reduce oxygen consumption include a reduction in heart rate. Most people will get a bradycardia, which is a reduced rate of about, hovering in the 40 and 50 beats a minute. The other one that occurs is peripheral vasoconstriction, so blood is redistributed to more vital organs and tissues that really rely on oxygen for their metabolism. And so things like the central nervous system, aka the brain, spinal cord, the eyes, the heart, the lungs. So all organs that have a really high oxygen consumption will get a larger serving of the blood flow and volume. Another one that occurs is body cooling. So various tissues, organs, will actually cool, and we've measured brain cooling of several degrees within a space of a few minutes. So it's a very fast acting response. As you can imagine, some animals can only hold their breath for a few minutes, unlike some seals who can go on for an hour. So it would be advantageous to be able to slow things down reflexly, extremely quickly. Just the act of holding your breath will actually put these responses into motion, these reflexes into motion. Then the question is, can we magnify the response? So if simply breath holding triggers the response, then what other factors like environmental factors will actually magnify the response? And of course we know that stimulation of the upper face, so anywhere from basically your nose, upper lip to the forehead, will actually magnify the response. And what I mean by that is cold stimulation of the trigeminal nerve innervating the upper face. That will magnify response. It will reduce your urge to breathe. Now you can imagine as you hold your breath, CO2 is being built up as oxygen is being consumed, and that in itself is a trigger for wanting to breathe. We don't want to stop the dive too soon, so cold stimulation of the trigeminal nerve will actually depress your response to CO2. And that's an obvious advantage. And of course, the dive response becomes accentuated, becomes magnified with time as you become more hypoxic. In other words, as your oxygen levels decrease, and also as you become more hypercapnic. In other words, as you retain more and more CO2. Those two things act on the chemoreceptors in your blood vessels and will actually magnify the response. So there's a chain of events that make it progressively stronger with time. As you can imagine, that's more important because survival becomes more and more important as you run out of time. The question is, why would I switch to diving on empty lungs? My story is one of, it's a kind of a strange situation, I guess. Well, it's a really simple thing. It's not rocket science. It makes inherently no logical sense unless you start doing it and you notice the benefit. So